If you struggle with sleeping too hot, you've got to meet the new Climate Cool Smart Bed from Sleep Number. It actively cools up to 15 degrees on either side for deeper, more comfortable sleep. Like all Sleep Number smart beds, you can adjust each side firmer or softer, making it the perfect bed for couples. Finally, no more sweaty, sleepless nights. Experience it for yourself, only at a Sleep Number store. Introducing the new Sleep Number Climate Cool Smart Bed, the only smart bed in the world that actively cools and effortlessly adjusts to both of you. Find Sleep Number smart beds at every price point, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
Empower your business or digital agency with Bluehost, trusted by over 5 million WordPress users globally. Bluehost features top-to-bottom hosting optimizations designed specifically for WordPress, giving you 24/7 access to a team of experts for support, plus thousands of WordPress help articles. So if you want to streamline WordPress website creation with intuitive controls and premium support, choose Bluehost, powering over 2 million websites worldwide.
Yeah, everybody's concerned because the hurricane, you don't know if it's coming my way to Miami or if it's going your way to Cape Coral on the western coast of Florida. And then days pass and it becomes pretty apparent that it doesn't even matter because none of your guests can come because all of the flights are getting canceled because it's coming somewhere.
This is the plaintiff, George Good. He says he paid for the defendant's DJ services for his upcoming wedding in Southwest Florida. But Hurricane Ian had different ideas and he had to cancel. The stubborn defendant said he'd refund his money as every other vendor did. He's now refusing to pay up. That's why he's suing him for the $950 he paid him. This is the defendant, Jay. He says the plaintiff canceled on him 3 days before his scheduled wedding, citing Hurricane Ian as the reason. His contract clearly states cancellations must be made 30 days before the wedding. The wishy-washy guy canceled his wedding outright and is not entitled to a refund. He's accused of blowing off a storm.
All parties, please raise your right hand.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Milian in our forum, the People's Court.
People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right. Mr. Good, you are suing Jay, who is a DJ?
Yes.
For $950, a full refund of money that you paid for his services, which couldn't happen thanks to
Hurricane Ian.
Hurricane Ian. All right, tell me what happened.
Oh, yes, ma'am. On June 23rd, my wife and I, fiance at the time, now wife, we made arrangements to meet Mr. Floyd at the Cape Coral Starbucks to pay him a $350 deposit for the $950 he was charging for his DJ MC services for our wedding to be conducted on October 1st.
How did you hear of the defendant?
My fiance at the time found him on the internet providing services.
And had she ever heard him play or not really?
No, ma'am.
All right, so you folks plan to meet at the Starbucks in Cape Coral.
Correct, ma'am.
And what happens?
We met him at that time and gave him a deposit of $300. And at that time, arrangements were discussed for the wedding October 1st, and then we moved forward. And then on September, that Monday before the hurricane, we met him where the wedding was supposed to have transpired and taken place. At that time, he wanted the balance of the $650 due for a total of $950 for his services. We wrote that check out in a personal check to him and gave that to him. And we displayed our concern on that Monday that the wedding coming up that coming Saturday could possibly be jeopardized due to the fact that a hurricane was coming.
Right. So that was Monday was the 26th of September.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
so you meet with him for the second time at the venue, and then Yeah, everybody's concerned because the hurricane, you don't know if it's coming my way to Miami or if it's going your way to Cape Coral on the western coast of Florida.
Correct.
And then days pass and it becomes pretty apparent that it doesn't even matter because none of your guests can come because all of the flights are getting canceled because it's coming somewhere.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happens?
We were trying to be optimistic that it was still going to be able to take place because at the time, the National Hurricane Center was saying that it was going to hit Tampa, which maybe we'd catch the right side, the dirty side of the hurricane and just be subjected to some winds and,
it's hard to land the plane, though.
Yeah.
Because they got to fly over Tampa to get to you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So go ahead.
So unfortunately, all the family members from Illinois and Indiana were not able to come because all the planes were canceled. I reached out via text on that Friday to Mr. Floyd. The hurricane was on Wednesday. And I reached out.
The hurricane was on Wednesday, what day? October?
The 28th.
The 28th. So the hurricane hit Western Florida on the 28th.
Yes, ma'am. 2 days after we paid him the deposit.
Okay, and the wedding was going to be on the 1st, which is 4 days later.
Correct. Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
go on.
And then I had reached out to him via text message that said it's not going to be able to happen because the whole citywide, Southwest Florida for the most part, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, was out of power citywide due to this catastrophic hurricane that it hit and unfortunately caused numerous deaths as well as significant property damage.
Was your home damaged?
Yes, ma'am.
Severely, or were you one of the luckier ones?
Just the roof, some pool cage damage and that sort of thing. So very fortunate to some, and unfortunately some folks, as I stated, lost their lives. But I reached out to him in good faith to tell him that obviously the wedding was not going to be able to go on, nor was the reception. And I didn't hear nothing back from him, so I just waited. And then the next day, on the day of the wedding, I sent him another text, saying that I would like to get with him next week to get my refund for services that weren't rendered due to a catastrophic hurricane that was a Category 4. And I didn't get anything back. I left several voicemails as well. Didn't hear anything back, so I waited 1 week till the following Saturday after the wedding was supposed to be October 8th.
Did you guys end up getting married anyway?
Yes, ma'am. The pastor there at Grace Church that we attend was able to perform the ceremony outside the church because there was no power. And the couple that we let stay with us didn't have an emergency generator. They got to stay with us, and so they attended the wedding, but.
Was anybody else able to gather around or not really?
Not what we had hoped for in the way of the wedding.
No, clearly not. But were you able to get other friends and family to gather around or not really?
No, we didn't. And we figured maybe on down the road sometime we would have another celebration,
Correct.
just obviously it'll be a memorable wedding that we endured together. But
okay, now let me hear from you.
Basically, yes, everything he said is pretty much true. But I do have a contract as far as I do this. I work all over South Florida, from the Keys, all the way from Key West, all the way up to Tampa. I take bookings everywhere, and this is my living. This is how I make my money. And it states clearly in the contract that basically with 90 days out, there is no cancellation. All monies paid remain with me.
And what does it say about inclement weather?
It says cancellation policy. Party of the first part agrees to the party of the second part.
Who's party first?
I'm party of the first.
Okay.
He's party of the second.
He's party second. Go ahead.
Is not subject to cancellation.
I haven't heard that in 50 years, but go ahead.
Contract. Unless both parties.
No, I haven't heard that in a contract in 50 years, but
really?
go ahead. Yeah.
My wife wrote it up.
It used to be very popular, but go ahead. No, it's fine. It's fine.
A request for cancellation of services obligates the party of the first part to make full. Actually, I'm second. Sorry. Party of the second.
Yeah, that's why we don't do that anymore.
Yeah,
we just say hereinafter referred to as DJ, hereinafter referred to as client, so we don't have to try to remember first part, second part.
I got
Go
you.
ahead.
You're right.
Go ahead.
So it basically says total agrees.
What does it say about inclement weather?
Weather in the event. Basically, it says weather in the event of occasion where it must be rescheduled due to rain or other inclement weather. I agree that I will cooperate with respect to such rescheduling, subject, however, to our availability. In the event that the date has been rescheduled, the initial deposit will be transferred to the DJ or the equipment.
So the contract is not a very long contract. How many pages?
4 pages, 3 pages actually.
Right, but like double spaced, and it's kind of, it's a simple to read, other than the party of the first part, party of the second part, which always reminds me of Bugs Bunny, right? But in any event, the point is that your contract actually envisions this occurring. And what your contract envisions is a rescheduling. So
I tried to make good faith to reach out to him via text and that and everything.
Why were you ignoring him?
He basically said he was not interested in rescheduling or anything. He just wanted his entire money back.
Do you have any recordings of his messages where he says that?
I have all the voicemails right here.
Does he say refund? Play the one where he says, I want a refund, I demand a refund, or whatever.
Give me a second. There's several on here, so I'll have to.
And still, why don't you just respond anyway and just say, look at the contract, we can reschedule. But
honestly, I really did not have cell phone service for about 10 days. And the first 5 days I spent waiting in line to get gas. You know what I mean? It was really a bad situation.
Yeah, but eventually.
Yeah. By then I had received papers that I was being sued, so that's when I just decided not to. No, I'm not 100% sure which one says which, to be honest with you. But I do have text messages also that say we're not looking to reschedule.
Okay, let me see the text messages. That's all right. You can turn that off.
Yeah, let me pause that.
And show me the text messages. Did you ever ask to reschedule, Mr. Good?
No, ma'am.
So I guess tell me what your thinking was.
Well,
when you were
at the time there was no power and nobody really knew how long it was going to be, and we had no idea when we could even reschedule.
I get it. I know it's not your fault. You know who else's fault it's not? Him. He didn't summon up the hurricane either. So it's nobody's fault, right? And he had invested time with you the first day and time with you the second day. So the question is, where do we land? Is it, hey, we had no wedding, so give me all my money back? Or is it something different than that? And, this has come up, obviously, in the COVID situation for the last several years in my courtroom. But what I always do, step one, is, well, what's the agreement between the parties? Because you guys can agree to anything. You could say, if there's a hurricane, I get your firstborn. Well, you can't say that. But you can say anything. You can agree to anything. So it's a contract that you sign which specifically takes into account what happens if there's inclement weather. And what it says is, you don't lose and I don't lose. I don't have to give you back the money. We just reschedule. That's what it says.
We had no idea when we would even be able to reschedule.
Yeah, no, tough for you. Right. That's a you problem. And you just finished saying that you hope one day you can do a celebration. But even if not, that's a you problem, isn't it? It's not a him problem because you signed that contract. Let's see. I left 2 messages on voicemails. It is all canceled due to everyone is without power. I will get with you next week for a $950 refund. Thank you. Good morning, Jay. Give me a call, please. We've made numerous attempts to reach you and get our $950 paid back. I mean, none of this is in your contract. I mean, you did really only ask for one remedy. If this is not returned, we will be forced to take this to litigation. Tell me why I shouldn't bind you to your own contract that you signed with your own sentient hand.
Your Honor, we had no idea that a catastrophic...
No. You had an idea of what would happen if there was a catastrophic event because it's actually in your contract. It actually said, good contract, by the way. It actually says, in the event of inclement weather, your remedy is rescheduling, not refund. So why shouldn't I hold you to the contract you signed?
Well, ma'am, and we met with him on the 26th to give him the final payment, and we, at that time, my fiance and I sent I have a copy of that letter as well, that we stressed our concern with the upcoming hurricane, and that he made comment to both of us, and she wrote that out too as well. Well, we'll either reschedule it or I'll get you your money back, refund.
Okay, so now you're saying that on the 28th, when you met him, he told you he'd give you a refund.
Correct.
Did you ever tell him you'd give him a refund?
No, I said we'd work some.
I'm sorry, the 28th was the hurricane, so that didn't happen.
The Monday, I'm sorry, ma'am, the 26th.
So the 26th.
Correct.
Right. Did you ever say, oh, if there's a hurricane, I will just reach into my pocket as though I summoned the hurricane gods and hand you $950 when you have a contract that protects you from such a thing?
I did not. I said we would work something out.
Right. Work something out doesn't mean a refund. Now, you were saying, I have that in writing. What are you talking about? You mean your wife wrote that?
She was there present with me, and she wrote it out, basically the statement saying that he would make this right if the hurricane effect did hit.
I'm sorry. I want to see what your wife wrote. I will make this right. Well, how is that I'm going to refund your $950? Yeah, it's not. All right, we're done. So you don't get the $950 back, but you do have the ability under this contract to reschedule a party.
I'm still willing to do that.
Right. And that's what you've got, because that's what you bargained for. And my job here is not to feel sorry for people. I'm sorry that happened. Actually, it's a great story, too, but, it's not to feel bad for people. My job is to enforce the contract that you guys have. And your contract, your remedy, is to reschedule. My verdict in this case is for the defendant.
So the judge tells the plaintiff, no deal, you don't get your money back. But you can still have a party if you want. Mr. Good, how do you feel about what the judge just said?
I understand where she's coming from, but I also feel like that the possibly could have been refunded. We don't even know when we're going to re-celebrate the wedding that we weren't able to have. So, I mean.
You know, number one, I'm surprised you didn't delay the wedding. Anyway.
No, the wedding was delayed.
It
was not able to be performed, obviously, due to nobody had power. So.
Yeah, but you got married.
Yes, outside the church with no power. I'm just the pastor and another couple that stayed with us. Yes, sir.
All right. Bottom line is, the judge says you got to live up to the contract, so you can have him perform his functions at a party. Are you going to do that?
I'll leave that up to my wife, sir.
Because, I mean, you're still entitled to it. You've paid for it. You may as well, but you can't get your money back.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, good effort, but you failed.
All right.
Good luck to you. All right, let's see what the defendant, Jay, has to say about it. He's on his way out of the court.
How you doing?
Jay, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Good day.
Did you think you'd have a chance to prevail in this case?
Yeah, I did. You know, I mean, it's a fairly simple contract, but it pretty much lays out the conditions. And I mean, working in Florida, I've been doing it for 25 years, and this isn't the first time weather has, affected events. So yeah, that's why the contract states that. But I'm more than willing to help.
So if Mr. Good calls you back to perform at another function, you'll do it, right?
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to do it. I'll throw him one hell of a party.
And is there a time limit on it?
No time limit.
All right. Well, good for you. Okay, congratulations. And I'm sorry about the hurricane. I know everybody suffered, so yes. I hope you didn't suffer too bad.
No,
all right?
not too bad. Thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Harvey?
Doug, if that clause wasn't in the contract, then the judge would have to decide whether the weather constituted an act of God so the plaintiff could get his money back. Whatever, it would end up Al Roker would be the star witness.
I live in a townhome in Orlando, Florida, with only one pool in the complex, and they decide to renovate it during the summertime. Do I have a right to not pay my homeowners, or at least ask for a discount on it?
The short answer is going to end up being no, right? Because all of these condo associations will have bylaws, and if they had a smart lawyer draft those bylaws, and it's all, like
you don't get to withhold your homeowners when things go wrong.
Repairing.
Right, because things break, pools need to be repaired, maybe the finish has to be redone.
And when you say summer, it's always summer in Orlando, so but I guess the kids are off from school, and that's when you think you're going to be able to use it. It's a very dumb time to do a repair,
well,
so maybe
why
vote
not?
them out of office, whoever made that decision.
It might be the best time to do a repair, because a lot of those places also have seasonal people who are there most of the year, and then they all bolt in the summer, and they go north because it's too damn hot.
So you're
June, July, August.
Yes.
Maybe they figured it won't get as much use. The pool wouldn't get as much use. We'll give everybody a break. We'll do it over the summer. Nobody's here anyway.
It could be that all the other owners are snowbirds who. So I see what you're saying. So maybe they made it that. No matter what is the reason for their decision, you're not going to be able to withhold your dues over it
because the pool's out of commission.
No.
That's going to happen from time to time.
Yeah.
Anyone who's lived in a condo or townhouse complex for a long period of time, like more than 5 years, has seen the pool shut down probably for a long time for pump repairs, maybe to refinish the whole thing, and some of that stuff takes months to get done.
Empower your business or digital agency with Bluehost, trusted by over 5 million WordPress users globally. Bluehost features top-to-bottom hosting optimizations designed specifically for WordPress, giving you 24/7 access to a team of experts for support, plus thousands of WordPress help articles. So if you want to streamline WordPress website creation with intuitive controls and premium support, choose Bluehost, powering over 2 million websites worldwide.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
This is the plaintiff, Lisa Jordan. She says she hired the defendant to inspect her house before she purchased it, and he gave it a clean bill of sale. After she bought the house, her cousin told her he thought she might have a mold problem. She hired another company, and sure enough, they found an elevated amount of toxic black mold. And she had to rip her kitchen out. She had to pay $7,450 to fix the problem the defendant missed. And she feels he owes her the $7,500 she's suing for today. This is the defendant, Wayne Caston. He says he's a certified home inspector for the past 11 years in the state of Florida and has done over 10,000 inspections. He was hired to do a non-invasive visual inspection of a home she already purchased. He informed the plaintiff there were 11 significant problems with the house, including a wet spot on the kitchen ceiling. The plaintiff paid no mind to his report, and he's not responsible for this mold problem she now claims she has. He's accused of creating a moldy situation.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says that she hired the defendant to inspect the house she was about to buy, but the guy missed a big mold problem. Now, the defendant says he's done 10,000 inspections, and he told the plaintiff she should get someone licensed to look at the wet spot on her kitchen ceiling, but she didn't. It's the case of you don't break the mold.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Ms. Jordan, you're suing your home inspector because, according to you, he missed that there was mold damage on your house that you bought. Tell me what happened.
Yes, Your Honor. I moved from Massachusetts after my mother passed away, and I wanted to purchase a home in Florida. And I purchased a home on November 7th, 2021.
Okay.
And I had contacted the listing agent and asked her if she knew of an inspector, and she gave me Mr. Caston's phone number. Mm-hmm. So I contacted him, and he came and did an inspection on November 15th, 2021. I came to see him the day of the inspection, and I had noticed a black circle on the ceiling in the kitchen. And I pointed it out to him and asked him what he thought of it. And his response was, well, it's probably old and nothing to worry about. And on 11/18, I received the report via email. He then mentioned in the report that that circle was actually a wet or moist stain. Mm-hmm. It was never hinted to me or suggested to me that it could be mold. It did say to get a contractor.
You're not from here, are you? That's the thing. See, I'm Floridian, and we know how moist we are. So he tells you it's wet and you should get a specialist contractor to look at it, but that didn't alert you, you feel, to the fact that you needed to get a mold. Well, what did you think it was when you pointed it out to him? Weren't you worried it was mold?
Well, like I said, when I first asked him about it, he said it was probably...
It's probably dry and old, don't worry about it. But then he puts in the report that it's moist, and he puts a picture of the moisture factor, and he tells you to see another contractor about this. Do you ever pick up the phone and call him and say, what type of contractor should I see? Do you have a recommendation on who I should hire? Do you ever call a mold specialist now that you know that the spot is wet? Do you ever call a mold specialist and have him come in and do an inspection or do a test?
I didn't feel I was alerted with his report.
Okay. And let me hear from you, Mr. Caston. She says you were deficient in your job. Let me hear from you.
She is correct in everything she says. However, in the state of Florida, you have to have a mold license to start saying the word mold. And, that's where, unless I've tested it and I know that it's mold, I can't say, hey, you have mold. I don't even want to alert anybody because I don't want to create false panic. So we need to get it tested first.
Right.
So I sent her an email and let her know that.
You sent her an email and told her what?
Even before she paid for the report, I sent her an email. I said, look, I know, that discussion we had when you were there, I was wrong. After you left, I would tested it, with two different devices.
So you not only put it in the report, you sent her an email?
Yes, I did.
The stain by the kitchen was leaking after all. inside the cabinet against the wall was wet. A roofer or handyman will need to seal that area of the roof wall as needed to stop the water intrusion. What does he need to do? Hit you over the head with a baseball bat? Ms. Jordan? I mean, he even sends you the email telling you that you need to look into this, and you don't look into it?
I wanted to hear mold. I wanted to hear hire a mold inspector. I'm not an inspector or a mold person.
He's not allowed to, he's actually right about that. He's not allowed to conclude it's mold and cause a panic. But let's see what he says. He has a picture of the spot with arrows and this title, wet stain detected. He has a picture of the moisture level detected. And then where's this wet stain that you have underneath it? Where's that detected?
That was directly below everything above.
Which is below the cabinets?
Yeah, there was another cabinet at the bottom that you had to open up to see inside.
And you see that inside. I mean, the guy isn't allowed to declare it mold. It needs to be tested to see if it's mold. This was really incumbent upon you to take the next steps. The cause of the stain should be investigated to determine whether the condition is due to a single event or something that could occur again. Note that the home inspection cannot fully assess the extent of damage, as this often involves invasive activities such as removing finishes, etc. Recommend a qualified contractor further evaluate and repair as needed. And you don't even call him to say what kind of contractor or anything else. You're fine with it.
I'm not fine with it.
Well, if you weren't fine with it, why didn't you get another qualified contractor to further evaluate the wet spot?
He said a qualified contractor to evaluate a leak.
Okay, so did you hire a qualified contractor to evaluate a leak?
I contacted Mr. Dry, yes.
Who's Mr. Dry?
Mr. Dry is the mold remediation company.
Right, but that was after you closed.
Correct.
Right, so your entire lawsuit is based on being duped or him doing his job negligently, because if you had only been warned, you would have gotten in a specialist. You might not have bought the house because you would then have learned that it would cost you $7,000 and whatever else. What else must the guy say besides, hey, an email telling you, listen, that spot was wet, and you do nothing until after you close? So how is it fair to say if he had just done something differently, you might not have closed? Let's see what it is that it cost you not to follow his advice. All right, they had to rip out all the cabinets, right? Ooh, look at that. And that's what's behind the cabinets. How often are you a part, Mr. Caston, of people taking down the cabinets and looking at what's behind it in Florida?
Never.
Never.
Once I leave, I'm not part of anything, any of the repairs.
Yeah.
It's a conflict.
Yeah. You know how often I've seen this?
As a contractor, I've seen it many times.
Right. It's like every house that no matter how beautiful and pristine the house is, you take it down and there's some spots. This is a lot. I mean, this isn't some spots, but is this your new kitchen?
Yes,
or did they put back the old cabinets?
No, they ripped them all out.
Oh, and then you got new cabinets.
I did.
Oh, and then you want him to pay for your new cabinets. You want him to pay the $4,000 for the mold remediation and $3,000 for the cabinet replacement, and I'm not going to order him to do that because I feel like he did do exactly what his job is. In fact, he went above and beyond what his job is by emailing you to let you know that a discussion you had wasn't valid anymore. I find in favor of the defendant in this case.
So the plaintiff does not prevail. The defendant is off the hook here in this $7,400 lawsuit against him. Ms. Jordan, I'm going to have to ask you something after hearing everything that has just gone on in this trial. How do you feel? Do you feel a little stupid right now?
No, sir, I don't. I still feel I wasn't at all suggested that it could be mold. And, I mean, I don't live in Florida. I don't know it's automatic to see a wet moisture and know that that means mold.
I mean, you've learned a hard lesson, a tough lesson the hard way. And how much did you end up spending altogether on your kitchen?
Well, $11,000 on the kitchen, and then there was more in the bathroom, so $20,000 total.
Wow. That's a tough lesson to learn. Mr. Caston, let me ask you a question. Is it the law that you can't use the word mold, even hint at mold?
From past experience, we don't want to use the word mold unless we know, because it creates, it'll kill a deal real fast. And I don't want to be responsible. So, and if I don't have all the facts, I need all the facts.
Obviously, you did a good job. No question there. So kudos to you. You're off the hook.
So, Doug, these emails made a huge difference in the case because it really outlined what the duties were here. So, look, we have talked about this before. Text messages, go back and forth with somebody you're having a dispute with to have them acknowledge something about your case. It's the same with emails. That kind of writing back and forth where you're outlining the deal is make or break if you get to court.
I'm driving on Main Street, 25 miles an hour, in a metal bucket with crumple zone, safety glass, seatbelts, traction control, airbags, etc. A guy sitting on a motor, hanging onto a metal bar and no helmet, I take it he means a motorcycle, speeds by me. I'm stopped and ticketed for not wearing my seatbelt. Do I have a defense against this ticket?
I've never quite heard it put that way.
So I guess he's in a car. That's what he's describing as.
He's in an automobile.
Okay, in a metal bucket with crumple zone safety gear and but he's not wearing his seatbelt.
Right, and the guy next to him's hanging on literally a
metal bar on top of a
crotch
motor.
Rocket or something, right?
That's
and,
a motorcycle.
No helmet.
So I guess he's angry that the police picked him instead of the speeder on the motorcycle to give a safety ticket to.
Right, but the fact is, our laws are arbitrary, not just with traffic, but with other areas of the law as well.
I guess he's right that, you're going to make me wear my seatbelt, but you're not going to make that guy wear a helmet.
Right. It seems arbitrary.
That is arbitrary.
Right.
I guess I agree with you on that.
We draw arbitrary lines all the time. You can grow plants and then make alcoholic drinks from them and get intoxicated, but you can't pick a mushroom and eat it because you might get intoxicated from that, or smoke something that comes out of the ground because that might get you intoxicated. But we draw these arbitrary lines all the time, and some things are favored, some things are disfavored. Does it make any sense? Most of the time it doesn't.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes per detail.
This is the plaintiff, Seth Goldfarb. He says he brought his computer to the defendant's repair shop for a keyboard replacement, and he broke the computer, rendering it inoperable. That's right. He brought the defendant a working computer with a couple of missing keyboard keys, and when he worked on it, he damaged it beyond repair. The defendant refuses to refund him the purchase price he paid for his computer, and he's here suing him for the $1,900 he says he's owed. This is the defendant, Kent Johnson. He says replacing the keyboard is a straightforward process, and the only mistake he made was not turning the guy's computer on before he worked on it to make sure it functioned properly. Once it didn't turn on, he sent it to a specialist and was told the motherboard was fried by someone else. He can't believe the plaintiff's trying to pull a fast one on him, and he refuses to pay him a penny. He's accused of frying a guy's laptop.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says he brought his computer into the defendant's repair shop for a new keyboard, and the guy broke the thing. But the defendant says that he didn't break anything. It came in that way. It's the case of laptop dance.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Mr. Goldfarb, what happened?
Well, I brought my computer in, Judge, to have the keyboard replaced. And when I went back later that day, it was a non-functioning keyboard.
Did you receive any phone calls from him in the meantime?
I did. He called to ask me if it was a working computer when I brought it in. And
what did you say? Why would I put a new keyboard on a non-working computer and not mention it? I imagine.
Long and short of it, yeah.
Yeah. And then what does he say?
He was sympathetic. He tried going back through the computer to see what was wrong with it. And when he realized it wasn't working at all, he offered to send it somewhere else to have it fixed.
On his dime?
Mm-hmm.
So he sends it somewhere else, and then what does he tell you?
About a month later, 3 weeks or so later, it came back with the diagnosis that it was completely fried. Several parts were beyond repair, and they were unable to get parts to replace them. So.
Okay. So how do you two leave it? What happens? What do you say to him?
kind of a circular conversation. I asked him how we could fix this, kind of alluding to the idea that he would help out in some way for damaging the computer. And he just kept running circles around me.
And saying what?
He was flabbergasted and astonished at how something like this could happen. And he's never had anything like this happen in his 25 years of business.
And what? How did you guys leave it?
I left the computer with him. I went back a week or so later, and picked it up after I kind of cleared my head and decided what to do.
And what was it you decided to do? Sue him?
Ultimately, yes.
Right. All right. So now, Mr. Johnson, tell me your version of these things.
Oh, he brought in the computer. He said it was the keyboard trouble, and he brought in the keyboard with it. I replaced the keyboard. When I put it back together and hit the button to turn it on, it didn't turn on, so I called him, and he said, no, he was working when he brought it in. I said, well, I don't know what I could have possibly done that did this, so I took it back apart, and I checked every connection, and I have no idea how it didn't work. So I offered to send it out to someone who could figure it out. I figured it must be a fuse or something somewhere. Those fuses are microscopic. I can't do them here. And they said, no, the board was bad. And not only that, but the LCD was bad, which I have no idea how that could have happened.
Well, didn't you? I mean, when someone brings in a computer, don't you have them power it up? And I mean, I know that's what
Yeah.
You didn't do that?
Yeah, no, I didn't do that. I did not check it before I took out the battery. I just started the process.
Are you sure you took out the battery?
I'm sure I took out the battery, yeah.
So you then end up sending it out because you feel bad, and you pay to have it sent out and have it investigated. And when they tell you... Not
really.
Okay, so you didn't pay?
I paid shipping.
Okay. And it gets investigated. They tell you what's wrong with it. And then what's the plan? Because if he brought you a working computer and then in your care the thing somehow shorts, what's the game plan? Just tough for him?
No, I mean, that's what I keep telling Seth. I'm not gonna like negotiate with myself. I mean, what do you want? Oh, I want a new laptop. Well, I'm not going to buy you a new laptop. I mean, I didn't say this to him, but I'm not going to sit here and say, how about half a laptop? I mean,
That's kind of what the negotiation is. You're suing Mr. Goldfarb for the cost that you paid for it, plus the cost of the keyboard, plus tax of $100, which I don't know where you got that. Remember, if it's the value of the item at the time of the loss, and you are talking about a laptop that was by then how old? 1 year?
It was about a year old.
Yeah, not that old, but it had a broken keyboard or whatever that you were having fixed. So in other words, my job is to assess the value of this item, its depreciated value at the time of the loss, if it were functioning correctly, which would include a good keyboard. Mr. Goldfarb, you paid $1,600 for the computer a year ago. You paid $200 for the keyboard. I have to depreciate it,
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah. This isn't a criminal case. I don't have to absolutely know what happened. I just have to look at the facts, and in a civil case, the standard of proof is much less than in a criminal case. In a criminal case, it's also not absolutely know what happened. In a criminal case, it's beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. But in a civil case, it's by a preponderance of the evidence. You and I both know there's no way he brings that thing in for you to change a keyboard if the thing isn't working. Because what would be the point? You'd have a keyboard on a computer that's not working. He'd tell you, hey, and it's not working. Find out what's wrong with it. Diagnose it. That's what he would say. Also, kind of shame on you for not making him do what the genius desk always makes me do, which is turn on your computer. All right, and then you have to turn it on and show them that it works. That's a habit. It's good habits. Little tiny good habits are what keep us out of trouble. So I am going to order the plaintiff to be recompensed for the loss of the computer, $1,400. Good luck, folks.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the plaintiff is going to get $1,400 for that computer, not the $1,900 he had been seeking. Mr. Johnson, what do you think you've learned from this, other than you got to test the computer when it comes in with the customer, I suppose, there with you, right?
That's absolutely right, and I kicked myself 100 times for not doing that this time.
Yeah, I'll bet you have. No kidding. I'll bet you have. All right. Well, I'm sorry, but that's it. $1,400. Hey, that's better than $1,900. Okay. Good luck to you, Mr. Goldfarb. You feel sorry for him or not? Maybe you don't. What's your reaction?
I don't know. I sense his reputation is pretty solid, and he's not going to really change much about who he is. I don't know. I'm just glad to get restitution.
All right. That'll bring this computer case to a close. Let's see what Harvey has to say. Harvey?
I want to spend a couple of seconds just kind of reviewing something we've talked about before. The standard of proof in a civil case. Everybody thinks, you have to prove, like in a criminal case, guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You do not. All you have to prove is a preponderance of evidence. That means just slightly tipping the scales. 51-49. That's the burden of proof. If you can meet that burden of proof in a civil case, you're the winner.
What subject in school was your best subject?
Well, I was...
all of them?
Yeah, I was a little nerd, so...
Poindexter, you? All right.
But I guess the one I enjoyed the most would have been creative writing, English.
Ah, Very good. You're a pretty good writer, I got to say.
No, you're a better writer than I am. I'm just a more creative writer.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
You
know all the rules.
Right,
and
the grammar.
You're like, your syntax is wrong here. No, you need a comma here. Put a comma there.
Not a good writer. That's kind of what it is, I guess.
What was your best subject?
I'm going to say Spanish was my best subject.
That is actually true.
I actually never got a grade in Spanish that was less than, 98, if it was a number grade.
Yeah, and you grew up in Buffalo, where whoever was learning a second language was learning French because they were right on the border.
The popular one, you're right.
Right, with French Canada. And you were always like the little John Wayne of Buffalo. You just loved all things Hispanic.
You know what? My father
for me.
My father was the captain of the 7th Precinct in Buffalo. And he had a very large Spanish-speaking population in that precinct, more than other areas of the city. And he kind of saw it. He had a good vision for that. And when it was time for me to choose a language, he's the one who guided me that way. He said, listen, this is the language you're going to have to know. And we're going to have, larger Spanish-speaking populations in this country. And that was in like 1973.
That was pretty prescient.
And it turned out to be a good idea.
Yeah.
About that.
Especially because of who you ended up with.
Right.